This is the story of a mother and daughter who don't really seem like a typical mother and daughter. Welcome to the recap of Gilmore Girls Season 1. The story begins in the small, charming town of Stars Hollow, a cozy place filled with quirky characters. Lorelai Gilmore, a vibrant single mother, shares a very close bond with her 16-year-old daughter, Rory. Their connection is unique. They're not just mother and daughter. They're like best friends, sharing easy communication and a mutual love for coffee. The plot centers on Rory's dream of getting into Chilton, a prestigious private school that could pave her way to Harvard. Lorelai, who had Rory young and raised her on her own with a lot of hard work, is determined for her daughter to have the opportunities she missed out on. However, Chilton's tuition is expensive, and Lorelai has to ask her parents, Emily and Richard Gilmore, for help. Their relationship is distant and strained, but the grandparents agree to pay for school under one condition. Lorelai and Rory must join them for dinner every Friday, a new dynamic that will bring back tensions and unexpected moments. In Stars Hollow, Luke Danes, the owner of Lorelai's favorite cafe in town, is a steady presence in their lives, though he's a bit grumpy. There's a special connection between him and Lorelai, even if neither of them openly admits it. Things take a turn when Rory meets a boy named Dean, a newcomer to town who shares her love of books and has a thoughtful view of the world. Their connection is immediate, and Rory starts to wonder if she really wants to leave Stars Hollow and Dean behind to go to Chilton. Lorelai faces the challenge of dealing with her parents for Rory's sake, while Rory finds herself torn between her academic dreams and her new feelings. Rory is excited yet nervous about her first day at Chilton. The next morning, Lorelai oversleeps, and in the rush, realizes she has no clean clothes, so she ends up taking Rory to the prestigious school in her pajamas, which draws stares and comments from the others. At Chilton, Rory quickly realizes she's in a demanding and competitive environment. Most of her classmates come from wealthy families. She meets Paris Geller, a smart and driven student who immediately sees Rory as a rival. Feeling threatened, Paris tries to intimidate her and make her life difficult from the start. Rory also meets Tristan, a guy who shows interest in her, though in a somewhat arrogant way. While Rory faces these initial challenges at Chilton, Lorelai tries to handle the embarrassment of her attire. Other moms give her judgmental looks, but the Chilton headmaster is kind and understanding, giving her a bit of relief. Later, at the Friday family dinner, Emily takes the opportunity to question Lorelai's decisions and parenting, hinting that her daughter's lifestyle is unsuitable. The tension between them continues to build, revealing deep differences between mother and daughter. Lorelai holds her ground, though it's clear her mother's comments affect her. Emily insists that Richard take Rory golfing at the club, even though neither of them is particularly thrilled at first. Throughout the day, Richard teaches Rory the basics of golf, and they both enjoy the experience, forming an unexpected bond by sharing family stories. Meanwhile, Lorelai works at the Independence Inn, putting up with Michelle's sarcasm and Sookie's obsession with perfecting a sauce. Lorelai feels uneasy and a bit bothered by the connection Rory seems to be building with her grandparents, fearing it might drive them apart. When Rory returns from the club, Emily proudly boasts about her growing relationship with her granddaughter, which makes Lorelai uncomfortable. The two argue because Emily wants Rory to be part of the Gilmore social circle, while Lorelai tries to keep her out of it. In Stars Hollow, Rory's best friend Lane struggles under the strict watch of her mother, who disapproves of much of pop culture. Lane sneaks small freedoms, like listening to rock music, whenever she can. Eventually, Lorelai comes to terms with the fact that Rory can enjoy time with her grandparents without it affecting their mother-daughter bond. Rory reassures her that, even if she's getting to know that side of her family, her relationship with her mom remains unique. Rory faces her first big exam at Chilton, and she's extremely worried about getting a good grade. Her dedication drives her to study tirelessly, to the point that Lorelai finds her surrounded by books and notes, completely focused on preparing for the test. Lorelai tries to encourage her, but it's clear Rory feels a lot of pressure to excel at her new school. On the day of the exam, Rory leaves early to make sure she arrives on time, but on the way, a deer hits her car while she's parked, leaving her shocked and delayed. She arrives late to the exam, and her teacher refuses to let her in, leaving Rory devastated as she fears this setback will hurt her academic standing at Chilton. In her frustration, she has a heated exchange with Paris, who takes the opportunity to antagonize her further. When Lorelai hears what happened, she's furious and takes Rory to Chilton to speak with the headmaster. During the meeting, Lorelai passionately defends her daughter, though Headmaster Charleston seems more interested in maintaining school rules than hearing Rory's reasons. Back in Stars Hollow, Lane tries to cheer Rory up, but Rory still worries about the incident. Lorelai finally reassures her, reminding her that her hard work means more than any single setback. Rory starts to develop feelings for Dean, the new boy in town, and Lorelai, noticing her daughter's interest, can't help but feel a bit nervous about this first love. Meanwhile, in Stars Hollow, Babette's beloved cat, Cinnamon, passes away, deeply affecting the neighbors. Babette holds a wake at her house, where everyone in town comes to show support. During the wake, Lorelai and Rory cross paths with Dean again, which makes Rory nervous. Lorelai watches as her daughter begins to experience new emotions, and while she tries to be supportive, she also finds it hard to accept these changes. Meanwhile, Lorelai's own love life is also complicated. Rory's teacher, Max Medina, shows interest in her, and though Lorelai feels drawn to him, she hesitates to get involved because of the possible complications of dating someone from Rory's school. The tension rises when Max also attends the wake, making Lorelai question her feelings. As the wake turns into a lively event, the residents of Stars Hollow share memories of Cinnamon, highlighting the close-knit nature of the town. Lorelai reflects on the changes happening in Rory's life and in her own, as both embark on new personal journeys. Rory's birthday is coming up, and Emily decides to throw a party at her house, inviting several family friends and classmates from Chilton. Lorelai, though not thrilled about her mother's idea, agrees for Rory's sake. The party at Emily's house is formal and stiff, making both Rory and Lorelai feel out of place. Rory's Chilton classmates, including Paris and Tristan, attend. But the situation grows tense when Tristan starts teasing Rory, creating an uncomfortable atmosphere. Rory endures the evening with patience, though it's clear she isn't enjoying herself. By the end of the night, Emily and Lorelai clash over the party, with Lorelai feeling that the event didn't reflect Rory's true wishes for her birthday. Later, Lorelai organizes a second celebration in Stars Hollow, inviting friends and neighbors for a relaxed, joyful gathering that suits Rory's personality much better. This time, Rory has a great time surrounded by the people who really matter to her, and the party has a much more authentic vibe. Emily, however, shows up unexpectedly, and upon seeing Lorelai and Rory's closeness with the townspeople, she feels left out and a bit bewildered. The tension between Lorelai and Emily escalates as Emily struggles to understand the life her daughter has built in Stars Hollow and the differences in how they celebrate. Despite the differences, Rory thanks them both, appreciating their efforts even though the two parties couldn't have been more different. Rory's feelings for Dean grow stronger, and while she's at Deuce's market, he surprises her with a kiss. Overwhelmed and unsure how to respond, Rory quickly leaves and rushes home without telling Lorelai. Lorelai notices Rory acting strangely and, after some gentle probing, gets her to share what happened. Excited by the news, Lorelai playfully teases Rory about her first kiss and encourages her to invite Dean over. But Rory feels embarrassed and uncertain about what this might mean. Later, in her enthusiasm, Lorelai takes the initiative to invite Dean over for a movie night without informing Rory. When Dean arrives, Rory feels nervous and uncomfortable with the surprise visit. Lorelai tries to help them relax, but her constant presence ends up being a bit overwhelming for the young couple. During the evening, Lane drops by to talk about her own romantic interests, adding another layer of awkwardness. Eventually, Lorelai realizes she's intruding and decides to leave Rory and Dean alone for a while, giving them a chance to spend time together. This experience becomes an important moment for Rory, as she begins to explore her first romance and the emotions that come with it. Lorelai, though a bit protective, tries to support Rory as she navigates this new chapter in her life. A heavy snowfall blankets Stars Hollow, and Lorelai, who loves the snow, is thrilled by the weather. Meanwhile, Rory ends up stranded at her grandparents' house due to the storm and can't make it back home to spend the night with her mom. In Stars Hollow, Max Medina, Rory's teacher, invites Lorelai on a date. Despite her reservations about dating her daughter's teacher, Lorelai agrees, and they enjoy a cozy evening together in the snowy town. The two share a romantic dinner, and Lorelai finds herself torn between her feelings for Max and her responsibilities as a mom. While Rory adjusts to the strict routine at Emily and Richard's, she misses the freedom she has with her mother. In town, Taylor is worried about the traffic, while the neighbors embrace the snowy atmosphere. At the end of the evening, Lorelai and Max say goodbye, both aware of the complications their relationship could bring. Rory is invited to Chilton's dance, her first big social event at the school, and Lorelai is excited to help her get ready. Although Rory initially hesitates, she ultimately agrees to go with Dean, who happily offers to be her date. Lorelai, proud and excited, makes sure everything is perfect for her daughter's big night. At the dance, Rory and Dean have a good time together, though they feel a bit out of place among the wealthy Chilton students. Paris is surprised to see Rory with Dean, which only adds tension between them. Meanwhile, Lorelai spends the night at home, only for Emily to unexpectedly show up, worried about Rory. The two mothers argue over Rory's upbringing and independence. Later that night, when Rory arrives home late after accidentally falling asleep with Dean in Miss Patty's studio, Emily criticizes Lorelai's leniency. Rory defends her mother, but it's clear that tensions over her upbringing are only growing between Emily and Lorelai. It's Christmas, and Emily decides not to invite Lorelai to the holiday dinner due to their recent conflicts. Rory attends alone at her grandparents' house, while Lorelai spends the evening at Luke's diner. During dinner, Richard suddenly collapses, and a frantic Emily calls Lorelai, who rushes to the hospital. At the hospital, Lorelai and Emily face their differences, and Luke arrives to support Lorelai. Emily and Lorelai briefly reconcile as they share their concern for Richard. Once he recovers, the family breathes a sigh of relief, and Lorelai and Luke share a quiet moment together before saying goodbye. Lorelai and Max Medina continue their relationship in secret, enjoying their time together. However, when some of Rory's classmates, including Paris, see them together, Rory faces uncomfortable moments at school. When Emily learns about the romance, she expresses concern, fearing it could affect Rory. After some reflection, Lorelai decides to end things with Max to avoid complications, though they leave open the possibility of reconnecting in the future. Lane convinces Rory to set up a double date with Dean and Todd, but Lane quickly becomes disappointed when Todd turns out to be very different from what she expected. Meanwhile, Lorelai and Jackson go on another double date with Sookie, which starts off awkwardly, but improves as the night goes on. Both groups experience some uncomfortable moments and learn about the surprises that come with dating someone new. Lorelai scores tickets to a Bangles concert and plans to take Rory and her Chilton friends. Rory invites Paris, Madeline, and Louise, despite the usual tension with Paris. The girls accept, turning the outing into an opportunity for Rory and Paris to try to get along. At the concert, Madeline and Louise get distracted by some guys, leaving Rory and Paris on their own, which makes Rory uncomfortable. Meanwhile, Lorelai spends the evening at Luke's, enjoying a great conversation. When they return, Emily shows up unexpectedly and criticizes Lorelai for letting Rory befriend certain people. Despite everything, Rory and Paris manage to find some common ground. Rory and Dean watch the Donna Reed show, and Dean mentions he likes the idea of a traditional family. Intrigued, Rory decides to surprise him by cooking a 50s-style dinner and acting like a housewife from that era. Dean is flattered, but they both ultimately agree they prefer a relationship without rigid roles. Meanwhile, Lorelai and Luke have their own debate about family dynamics, and Sookie and Jackson also encounter small differences in their relationship expectations. Rory's father, Christopher, arrives unexpectedly in Stars Hollow. Rory is thrilled to see him, but Lorelai feels a mix of emotions and tension from the past. Emily and Richard host a welcome dinner, where they bring up old grievances, including Christopher's lack of commitment to Lorelai and Rory, sparking a family conflict. Later, Lorelai and Christopher share an intimate moment and end up kissing, but Lorelai explains that their paths are different now. Christopher leaves with a promise to be more present, leaving Lorelai and Rory reflecting on their connection with him. Stars Hollow gears up for Valentine's Day, hosting an event called the Festival of the Crossed Lovers, where couples celebrate love. Dean plans a special date for Rory to mark their 3-month anniversary. During the date, Dean tells Rory he loves her, but she's caught off guard and isn't ready to say it back, leaving Dean visibly disappointed. Meanwhile, Lorelai and Luke take part in the festival, and Jackson proposes to Sookie that they move in together, which she happily accepts. Miss Patty entertains the townspeople with romantic stories, and Lorelai finds herself contemplating her own feelings for Luke. The night ends with Dean confronting Rory about her lack of response, leading him to end the relationship, leaving Rory heartbroken. Lorelai comforts her daughter as she processes the pain of her first heartbreak. Heartbroken after her breakup with Dean, Rory spends time at home until Lorelai encourages her to go out. Rory attends a party with Lane and runs into Tristan, who tries to make a move on her, but she firmly rejects him. Meanwhile, Lorelai talks to Luke about Rory's pain, and he provides her with comfort. When Rory returns, she opens up to Lorelai, who reassures her that the pain will pass, leaving Rory reflecting on heartbreak and how to move on. Lorelai's grandmother, Trix, visits Stars Hollow and announces that she wants to establish a trust fund for Rory's education, covering all her college expenses. Lorelai and Rory are thrilled, but Trix imposes one condition: Rory must stop attending the Friday family dinners. This causes tension in the family, especially with Emily, who feels hurt by the request. Ultimately, Lorelai decides to turn down Trix's offer to preserve the family bond, a decision Trix respects and Emily appreciates. Emily visits Stars Hollow to learn more about Lorelai and Rory's life. Rory shows her the Independence Inn and the old house where Lorelai raised her, surprising Emily with the modest conditions they lived in. During the visit, Emily meets Lorelai's friends and notices the closeness between her and Luke, hinting at a possible relationship. Meanwhile, Lane worries because her mother has found her hidden music, and Rory tries to help her. By the end of the day, Emily and Lorelai share a conversation where Emily expresses a mix of surprise and understanding toward Lorelai's independent life. After the breakup with Dean, Rory is hurting and becomes distant, causing tension with Lorelai. Without saying anything, Rory goes to her grandparents' house where she feels more understood. Concerned, Lorelai visits Emily and Richard, which leads to an argument between her and Emily about Rory's upbringing. In Stars Hollow, Luke reassures Lorelai, reminding her that Rory will always come back to her. Eventually, Rory and Lorelai reconcile and reaffirm their bond. In Stars Hollow, romantic tensions are high. Rory and Dean, who have been distant since breaking up, finally confront their feelings. Dean shows up with a heartfelt apology, and they reconcile, sealing the moment with an emotional hug that marks a new chapter in their relationship. Meanwhile, Lorelai's life is also in flux. Max Medina, her former boyfriend and Rory's teacher, returns, determined to win her back. Max proposes to Lorelai, expressing his desire to build a family together. Caught off guard, Lorelai faces an emotional crossroads, contemplating what this could mean for her life and her relationship with Rory. Everyone in Stars Hollow gets swept up in the romantic spirit, with the entire town witnessing the changes in Lorelai and Rory's relationships. In the final scene, Lorelai is left deep in thought, gazing at the flowers and romantic details Max has prepared for her. Rory, thrilled about her reconciliation with Dean, returns home to share her happiness with her mother. Together, they reflect on love and the opportunities ahead. This emotional ending leaves many questions open for the future as Lorelai and Rory embark on new stages in their lives. with love and family at the heart of their story. Let me know in the comments what other topics you'd like to see covered on the channel, and remember, if you enjoy this type of video, the best way to support me is by leaving a like, subscribing, and turning on the notification bell. See you in the next video.